Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order Blair County Commissioners meeting Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. If you would please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
There is no one else joining us by phone.
Executive session announcement.
There have been no executive sessions since our meeting on Tuesday.
Sorry, Kay.
We'll do better next time.
Public comment. Unfinished business.
Your first resolution for consideration today is number 92. It's approving the submission of the fiscal year 24-25 PATH grant intended use plan attestation form and authorizing the Blair County Mental Health Intellectual Disability Administrator Tricia Johnson to submit on behalf of the county.
I will make a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Okay.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
It's been a week, I understand. A short one, too.
Like
Resolution
I
number
am.
93 is approving the ratification of the submission of the following reports for the CDBG, Home, Lead, Fair, and WHRP programs as outlined on your agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Comments or questions?
Resolution number 94 is approving the print service agreement between the County of Blair and Infocon in the total amount of $6,998 for tax claim return and claims, sale notices, property sold letters, and November reminder letters for the period of 1/1/24 through 12/31/25. I will note of importance that Sue went back after Tuesday's meeting and realized on the contract that there was a duplication of services. There was a piece that was being contracted out that she does in the office, so it didn't need to be included. So on Tuesday's agenda, the amount was actually $9,609. You're seeing a almost $3,000 reduction there for that removal of the duplication. So the new contract amount is $6,998.
That's great. Good catch. Comments or questions? I'll make a motion to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution number 95 is approving a purchase agreement between the County of Blair and Infocon Corporation in the total estimated annual amount of $3,499.08 for daily tracking of all certified mail notices, including searches of certified mail by name, control number, parcel number, situs address for the period of 1/1/24 through 12/31/25. We did check the wording of estimated annual amount is because they're not sure how many certified mails will come back, but there is a good track record of that being the estimated total. So it will be per piece.
Any comments or questions? I'll make a motion to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution number 96 is approving the submission of the DGM 16F final financial status report to the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency for federal fiscal year 2023 as outlined on your agenda.
Comments or questions? I'll make a motion to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Resolution number 97 is approving the mosquito-borne disease control grant agreement between the County of Blair and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection as outlined on your agenda.
Comments or questions? I'll make a motion to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
And resolution number 98 is approving a letter of engagement from Young Oaks Brown and Company for a financial audit of the Fort Roberdeau Association for year ending December 31st, 2023, and the estimated total cost of $2,500 to $3,500.
Comments or questions?
I do have a question with the change in how we were doing that logistically. Does it come under the county audit next year, or will this continue?
That is the good news. This will be the last, we anticipate this being the last separate audit for that fund, yes.
That will make the Fort Roberdeau people happy too.
I'll make a motion to approve. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Any old business?
There is no old business, but there is new business, yes.
New business?
Yes, from the Commissioner's Office, we are requesting your approval of an engagement letter retaining Babst, Callan, Clemens, and Zomnar. I believe that should only say PC. That's an extra P. That's a typo. To jointly represent the County of Blair and the other counties in respect to the litigation filed in the District Court for the Middle District of Pennsylvania, titled David H. Zimmerman et al. Versus Al, that should be a capital A, Schmidt, Acting Secretary of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This litigation will join us with other counties. We'll share the cost of that, and also Solicitor Karn will review anything that would go out on behalf of the county. So there is a second double check legal on that from the Solicitor's Office as well.
Comments or questions?
And I don't know, do you want to add anything?
The only thing I would add is it's the Commonwealth Court, not the District Court, it's the Commonwealth.
Oh, their letter is wrong. So should it say Commonwealth Court for the Middle District?
It is, because the
Okay.
Commonwealth Court has a Western, Middle, and Eastern District, just like the Superior Court.
Okay. No, I stole that right off their letter, so I
Yeah.
apologize. Okay.
Well, there's been federal litigation, so I'll forgive them for
That's true.
because that would be proper nomenclature for a federal court.
Yeah,
and
okay.
there are a lot of cases. And the only other thing I would add, just for the benefit of the public, is this lawsuit is seeking a declaration that the canvassing of absentee ballots at a central location is in violation of the Constitution. Even prior to Act 77, at most what was done with absentee ballots when we didn't have all the mail-ins and there were a lot fewer absentees was they were open for purposes of getting write-ins, if there were any, but they still were scanned when they were still scanned when we had the touch screens back when, or I guess they weren't touch screens, they were the dial. The e-slates, when we had, for our absentees, we had what would be equivalent of Scantron for those of us that are older. And they would come back to the central location to actually be scanned. They were never, because there was nothing to scan at the polling place anyway. So this is not anything that's really new as a result of Act 77, but Act 77 has certainly spurred lots of litigation in lots of areas, and this is just another one of those areas.
Any other comment or questions? Okay, I'll take the motion to approve.
I'll
Yeah,
make a
second.
motion to approve, or did you make one and I'll second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry.
Okay, as long as someone makes it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have open discussion. We received from our last session on trails, there's several more emails that came in. We had indicated that we would read them, so I'm going to read the remaining emails, so just bear with me if you would please. Blair County Commissioners, hopefully this email is not too late for your consideration for commenting on the proposed recreation trail network in Blair County. My wife and I are ardent riders of the trails throughout Pennsylvania and beyond. Of the few we have in our area, only the Lauer Trail has any destinations, that being in the middle of the trail at Williamsburg. Destination towns and cities are one, if not the biggest factor in deciding where to ride. For most bikers, it is much more convenient to be able to rent a hotel room or stay in a B&B, etc. if traveling to ride a trail. A destination town is also preferred in order to find food and drink at the end of the ride. By linking local trails into a network that would enable a destination town to draw biking tourism in their local businesses. Few infrastructure investments have the same impact that trails provide for health and well-being of the people and the economy for smaller towns. People can be active and improve their health by walking or biking and just getting outdoors. Blair County Commissioners like to thank you for holding the Trail Development Public Forum to discuss the possibility and need to establish a countywide unit to coordinate outdoor activity opportunities. The meeting was very well organized, orderly, and productive. By the end of the meeting, all in attendance, I believe, could better understand why the central activity hub would be quite advantageous to coordinate grant opportunities and efforts in developing outdoor activities in Blair County. Thank you for considering and improved recreational trails for Blair County. We are in a great need of safe, maintained, and accessible recreational trails. They are essential to our community and individual well-being. This would be a vital improvement to a needed project. I think it is a great idea to add some hiking and biking trails to our area. I live in El Dorado Springs and Spring Run Drive, and a competitive race walker. I walk on Veterans Memorial Highway, aka Horseshoe Curve, several times a week. I see many vehicles from other states, especially in warmer months when the Horseshoe Curve is open for visitors. I've always thought it would be a great idea to widen the side of Veterans Memorial Highway for bikers, runners, and walkers. That road currently gets a decent amount of traffic, which will definitely increase with the addition of the trails. It may be a good idea to do a traffic study on the road before and after the tunnel to determine the current traffic pattern. I feel fortunate to have such a beautiful backyard in Horseshoe Curve area. The three lakes, especially Lake Altoona, host a variety of migrant birds each spring, including many water species like the tundra swan, bufflehead, canvasback, and redheads. Every now and then we see an osprey or bald eagle flying over. Unfortunately, there are no viewing platforms to enjoy bird watching in that area, which would be another huge benefit in this area. I've said I'm not going to read names, so this is going to be a little difficult. So this email is being sent as a private citizen. My wife and I are fully supportive of any effort to develop and maintain hiking and biking trails. We are blessed to live in a naturally beautiful area with such trails offer a healthy recreational activity to our citizens and our visitors. We often visit other state parks throughout the Commonwealth. We also hike several of our national parks, including Acadia, Grand Tetons, Yellowstone Glacier, Yosemite, and Kings, and very much enjoy hiking in nature. We have discussed serving as volunteers to help maintain our state and our national parks. Such hiking trails also offer educational opportunities for our citizens. Last one's lengthy. Dear Commissioners, circumstances beyond my control has made it impossible for me to attend today's public meeting. This disappoints me immensely, as I fear the written word will not be able to adequately express my enthusiasm and support for the development of a trail and bikeway systems in Blair County. I will, however, do my best to express those concerns and aspirations in this note and thank for providing that opportunity. Antis perspective. I feel fortunate to have been able to contribute in considerable trail work in Bellwood Antis, both as an officer of the Bellwood Antis Community Trust and the staff person at Antis Township. As you may or may not realize, Antis Township has been the only municipality in the entire county which has taken substantive actions to move forward with the trail property acquisition, trail construction. We mentioned this last time. They've done a great amount of work down there and should be applauded for their efforts. We said trail development is difficult and time consuming. Many are oblivious to the challenges: property acquisition, corridor planning, engineering, grant pursuit and administration, environmental reviews and permitting, final design and bidding, communication with contractor, unavoidable cost overruns, inevitable delays, and all of this before a single scoop of dirt is moved. Actual planning and building of trails has lagged far behind our neighbors. While support for the trails appears to be widespread among the general public and public officials, Blair County has lagged far behind, not just much of the state, but far behind our neighboring counties to the west and to the north. A true system of trails is impossible unless we build them through many communities and connect them to each other in important places. Trail segments are nice for the nearest neighbor and can provide a sound foundation on which to build, but they cannot provide the big shot in the arm either for the community or tourism as we hope. All of this is impossible without the bigger picture planning and commitment. A community trail here, a PennDOT add-on, a road project, a few blocks of sidewalks there, or a narrow path through a park cannot make the trail systems. The system does not begin and end with the 9/11 trail. It connects the entire county. Antis Township has spent many hundreds of thousands of their own and secured several millions in grants funding and is seldom acknowledged in discussion for the regional trail system, particularly since this is how northern communities will be connected to Altoona, ultimately Hollidaysburg, Lauer Trail, 6 to 10 Trail, and a critical part of the true system of trails. A diverse, connected system. This brings me to a related group of point which is important in the impending county effort. This is not just about the recreation, but it's about trails of all sorts, connecting as much as the county and as many people as it's practical. When one looks at the most cycling and pedestrian-friendly places in America, one finds paved, vibrant, wide-used urban trails, common in State College, actually utilized for getting from one place to another, generating local and small business development. Separate on-road bike lanes, lightly traveled bike boulevards, which connect trails, recreational trails like the Ghost Town Trail that comprise a system but are often connected to the urban areas as well as the broader regional trail system as the Trans-Allegheny Trail System does here in western central Pennsylvania. Mountain bike trails like those in Raystown, which are entirely different in multiple ways, urban and longer regional recreational trails. Pedestrian, handicap, and mass transit access to connections which make for the complete smart transportation system that will serve people of all ages, types of communities, degrees, and autos. Through no fault of their own, most local government decision makers are clueless about the important differentiations on how they relate to each other. Trail advocates, the Chamber of Commerce Transportation Committee, and others valuing these important quality of life enemies want to emphasize that each of these components are addressed. Finally, by personal note, 2024 will mark the 50th year as a serious bicyclist. I still cycle, not just to stay fit, but to experience and enjoy a truly beautiful part of the world. This discussion is an important one in order to make the sort of place that the people, especially young folks, want to live and business want to locate. This is our chance to make the lost time for finally turning the important figurative into a literal corner. And I believe that ends all of the reading on this particular subject. So, any personal comment regarding that? Sherry?
We attended a municipal meeting of 4 municipalities in northern Blair yesterday, and Annis Township had reiterated that same thing about their trail system, the amount of money and effort that it took to put that in place. So they don't want to be forgotten, but they want to be part of obviously the connection. But if an authority or a commission is formed out of that, they don't particularly want to hand that over to also because they've invested so much money and effort and time in that. So I just wanted to pass along their comments yesterday. We brought that up at the meeting and try to assemble some feedback from them about the trail system and looking into that further.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up. They should be commended for what they've done. They've looked at this and they understand, I believe, the impact it has on the health of the community, its people. It's a draw to bring people in, and they haven't been they haven't been recognized, I'll say. So again, I think, I can't speak for the other commissioners, but I do believe that over the last Thursday and then the continued correspondence we get in, I think we all understand that and the importance of trying to bring it together so that, I don't believe that Antis Township should be concerned that we're going to take over what they've done. However, we certainly would like an authority to be able to work with them to connect what they've done, to bolster what they've done, to enhance what they've done. So anyway, I hope that that's where the direction we go, but thank you very much. Any other comment related to the trail system? I need to bring water. Okay, commissioners' discussion on authority moving forward. So I guess we're gonna look at Nathan at this time.
Well,
And I'm sorry.
before we do that, I sat and thought about all of this, and I wrote down a bunch of comments, which you may or may not agree with, but I figure part of them are going to be things you would be able to answer, Solicitor Karn. So I figure if I raise them now, then you'll be able to answer them. You'll know what the questions are. It'll be like what Johnny Carson when he would hold that envelope up.
So we're putting you on the spot. Anyway.
Well, no, I'm trying not to. I'm giving you the questions first. Okay, so I was looking. I think one of the things I was looking for me personally in terms of the whole trail thing last week was for statistics that would sort of bolster this and demonstrate examples of how other areas had grown from their from having the trails and how that impacted their communities. And just examples of successes. And unfortunately, I think most of the folks that were here were basically here to say we support the whole idea of doing this, and nobody really had any statistics for us. So I thought I got a report from DCNR. And in that report, DCNR says that in 2022, which at this point, that's really the only thing they can look at, the outdoor industry brought in $17 billion to Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania as a whole. So we don't know how that impacted Blair County, but I imagine some of that came here. But there was no breakdown as to the benefits for each county. And we do need to keep in mind that 2022 was the end of COVID time when the people were finally allowed to travel and get out and about. Probably that was a part of people coming here and getting out because they were happy to be released from their homes and able to go out into the wild. So we don't really have a good estimate of any financial numbers or anything like that we can point to and say, this will be, this should bring us in X dollars or somewhere in the vicinity of. So we're still kind of making a decision in a vacuum of, we don't really have a whole lot to look at here. So we're just gonna try to do what we believe to be the best for the county as a whole. And I have confidence in my fellow commissioners and hopefully in myself that we'll make some good decisions here. Governor Shapiro has made trails one of his goals, and therefore they created the new Office of Outdoor Recreation. Supposedly, that particular office is going to be receiving funds, and those will be made available through grants and things from the state to help create, connect, whatever, we're not really quite sure, the various trails that exist and build what needs to be done. So at this point, we're not really sure what parameters they're going to set, what benefits we're going to get. But obviously we want to stay on the lookout so that we know what's going on. My only concern about this is that we don't know what requirements the state will have. I just hate to see us get involved in any entanglements with the state that will create burdens on our taxpayers. I think that we are looking at this to be not funded by property tax dollars, but by grants, by donations, by whatever else may be out there, people that are interested that just want to give money to it, or their time or efforts. And that's great. I just don't want to see us getting ourselves involved in creating a mess for the future taxpayers. I'm probably not going to be around that much longer, so it won't affect me. It'll affect everybody else, though. Anyway, so my only purpose in pointing these things out is that we just need to be aware of what we're getting into. I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. I think that we need to set some specific purposes and parameters for how we want to handle this. So I want to see we all want to see Blair County grow, attract motivated people and families, and support and encourage new and existing businesses in our that are here in our beautiful area, or that come here to our beautiful area. I just want us to proceed with caution. So I'm proposing that whatever entity we create, that it be created obviously for the sole purpose of channeling the county's ability to obtain funding through grants and other similar government type funds that would be available, and to be able to pursue rights of way or easements from property owners that would then be the responsibility of that entity itself. In other words, I'm cautioning against the county buying property that would then belong to the county and then would be a responsibility of the county taxpayers, because it would be an asset of the counties. So I'm thinking that we should avoid having the county itself, which is all of us, owning or controlling the trails or any facilities, because I would imagine there will be restrooms that will be needed, maybe fencing, all sorts of different things, but that we don't want those things to be owned and maintained by the county itself. Well, I don't know about anybody else. I'd also suggest that the county should not create or sustain a department and create another department where we would have a staff to support and vehicles and those kinds of things. This is an initiative that we will, if we do this, we will connect to other counties, and we will want to use all of the wonderful help and interest of the volunteers who have been putting together these trails over the last several years. We don't want to discourage them. We don't want them to go away. We want them to stay involved and to continue responsibility for caring for this and expanding all of this. Another thing that I would want the county to avoid is any contribution of county property tax funds or assets or county staff. So I think that I would propose that we create whatever entity, and we're going to get that suggestion probably here in a couple minutes, whatever that entity is, that the county would have a limited relationship with it, probably appointing people to it, something like that. But we would certainly not be involved in the day-to-day activities, and certainly you don't probably want Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Kessling, and me to be out cleaning trails or planning them. I think we have other things we're supposed to be doing. And I would also suggest that the entity in the creating documents would have a very limited purpose with specific parameters, so that we don't, between it and the county, so that we don't run into any difficulties or additional expense or problems in the future. So I support this, but I think we need to be cautious about what we're doing. I'm sorry it took so many words to get to that. But I tend to be long-winded. That's what I'm going to try.
That's fine. You have any comments?
I think it's clear from all of the comments and thought process that there needs to be something, I think, central to coordinate efforts across the county. I think in terms of what, I think I said this last week, in terms of what exactly that looks like, that's always been the question for me. I mean, I'm not sure. I think one concern I have, because the word authority has been used a lot, that we need a trail authority. We have two other municipal authorities, the airport and the convention center. I was the convention center liaison last term. I'm not either of those liaisons this year. But I guess my concern, I have two concerns I would like to note. Just one is that I wouldn't say, so our relationship with the authorities is that we appoint and approve the people who are set on their board. The convention center, of course, gets hotel tax money. The airport authority receives rent for the MDJ office that we have there, and then they come to us with a budget request every year, and that has always been a bit of a struggle. Personally, I would not call our relationship with either of those authorities particularly positive. I think there have been a lot of arguments about various things related to both of them while I've been here. So I think that's kind of one of my places of hesitation is if we are creating an authority which is similar in nature to those two, with the ability to appoint the board members, but then kind of just letting it go, that hasn't always been a positive experience in my experience. I think that the second concern I have is, just out of my education surrounding Cambria County's Trails Authority, which is that they have been very successful in extending their trail. They were named, Ghost Town Trail was named Trail of the Year a few years ago. And by all accounts, it's, a good trail. But I've heard both actually commissioners in Cambria County and in Somerset County, which has a large portion of the Gap Trail, express their concern with funding now that the trail is there. There is no funding to maintain trails. There's funding to, grant funding to, extend trails, create trails, but not so much on the maintenance side. So I think in terms of our past experience with our current authorities and knowing those experiences of our surrounding counties, I think the idea that there's not going to be any financial burden whatsoever on the county, especially in the initial, creation of this and inception, I don't think that's going to be possible. I think some sort of financial, support is needed, whether it's, us providing an initial match for an initial grant so they can have an employee. I would not expect an authority board of volunteers to be solely responsible for just creating this out of thin air. So I guess that's where I'm coming from is I don't necessarily think it's property tax dollars, but I don't think we're getting off scot-free in terms of how it's funded, regardless of what the entity ends up being, which I think Somerset's model is to have one county employee who is, I think, the executive director of what's basically a friends association for the trail there. So there's different ways to do it. I think we've always kind of thrown around the idea of an authority, but that's where I get into this discussion, hearing more from you and hearing from Solicitor Garnett.
Okay. I'd just like to add a few things, if I may. I'm one of the individuals, my family are one of the individuals that for the past 10, 12 years, our vacations are going to trails. That's what we do. We don't go to Hawaii. We don't go to any fancy places. We don't go on boats. We look for, we seek out, and we find trails. And when we do that, one of in our decision making of finding where we're going to go is where can we get the most bang for the buck, meaning when we go and we stay, we always stay in an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast. We want to be able from that location to hit as many trails as we possibly can. We hike and we bike. When we do that, it's for a weekend or a week. And during that weekend or a week, we eat out every night. We look at the history of the area where we're at, and we spend a lot of money there. And the studies have shown that when people go to, there's financials out there regarding if they're day hikers, bikers versus an individual that's going to be out there for a week. And the studies have been done, and it shows. I don't have it with me. I'd be more than happy to provide it, but it shows the financial impact that it has on a community or community. So, I think that I think at the last meeting that we have last Thursday, and the amount of people, there was over 60 people here, and the amount of emails that we have received, I think that the people of this county are looking at the leaders of this county to say, we want your help, we need your help. And I think that we as leaders need to look at the future. I think we need to look at, the impact this is going to have on us, not today, but 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. We have the 9/11 trail coming through here, which is a national trail. It's coming through. That's it. It's a done deal. We have nothing to do with it. It's coming here, which means going to draw people in here. The other thing is that we don't have a very good track record of keeping people in our county. As kids, they grow up here and they're gone, and most don't come back. And I know many of my friends and people that I've known who didn't live in Blair County but came here. They didn't want to come here because there's nothing here for them. They would travel to Philadelphia, they travel to Pittsburgh, they go to Baltimore. So we're finally starting to get some infrastructure in this area. I mean, we have a lot of local families here who've invested a lot of money in here to bring in the arts and to bring back the Mishler and plays and things like that. And now we're in the trails. I just think that right now, Governor Shapiro has made it a priority to look at outdoor recreation, which means it's going to bring in money. It's going to be grant money, not only nationally, but from the state. And I think that we would be foolish not to take advantage of that in any way that we can to promote us, to promote Blair County. We have the Water Authority who's giving 15,000 acres to the not only the people of Blair County, but anyone who wants to come here. The last time we spoke was last Thursday. We had an individual, which I spoke about, from the Mellon Foundation in Pittsburgh. They're interested because they look at this as a continuation from Pittsburgh to Blair County and beyond. So, I think that we need to look at this as being leaders and listening to our people, and they're for this. Out of probably 40 or more emails in support, we had 3 that were negative. And I look and I say, this in the last year, we've gone to Jim Thorpe, my family. We've gone to Confluence. We've gone to the Ghost Town Trail. So we go there for a reason. And I would like to be in my own backyard and go here and promote the local businesses that are here and not have to travel so far to see some of these things. So I think that the financial impact, if we do this and do it right, I think will be seen over the years to come. Not initially, but over the years. So I agree with both commissioners that authority sometimes can be problematic. It is at least a group of people who are going to dedicate their time to the promotion of an entity such as the airport or the convention center, whether we agree, we have a good relationship with them or not. There is concerns about an authority. We have to be very careful who's on an authority, because once an authority is made, it's an authority. They can make decisions on their own. They don't need our permission. So I think being able to place people on that authority is extremely important. And I think that we need to be very careful when we do that because of the impact that it may have. I also think that, I don't know that we want to discuss this, but there are funding sources out there that are not taxpayer money that we're considering and that we're looking at. And I think we have to be creative. Now, does that mean that there's not going to be any money coming from the county general fund? I can't tell you that. But what I will say, I think that this board, I think I can say that this board is not, looking to do that, and it would be minimal at best, because we understand that, all of our other financial responsibilities. I'll end with that, and then I'll look at Nathan and our solicitor and say, if we decide we would create an authority, what would that look like, and what would your suggestion recommendations be?
So if you were to create an authority, you would have to, as Commissioner Webster's already indicated, you have to cite the purpose of that authority within the articles of they're like articles of incorporation for a corporation. It's obviously not the same thing, but authorities kind of straddle the line of government and corporate law when you're dealing with them in formation aspects. Even you file with the Department of State, but it's a governmental entity, so it's kind of a mishmash. But you would put a purpose in there, and you can be broad in terms of that purpose. And I'm going to probably throughout our discussion use examples. I'm not promoting, we haven't talked about this before, so I'm not promoting any of these. It's just so I can explain what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
So you could have an authority that was a recreation authority, which that's really broad. I mean, you can just say it's for recreation in Blair County, which means, that could literally cover a county pool, for instance. Or you could be a lot more narrower, where it's specific to non-motorized trail system. If you wanted to be like down to that, pedal power, people powered, but not machine powered trail system. So you get to define that, and then they have to work within their purpose. They're not allowed then to decide, well, we really think a hospital next to this trail would be a good idea, so we're going to fund a hospital. Like they don't have the authority to do that legally. Right now, for instance, the convention center would not have authority to decide that they want to put a trail in, because that's not within their purpose. Their purpose is limited to the operation of the convention center. So you would put that in there. Initially, you have to have at least 5 members appointed to the authority. Your initial appointment would be to appoint somebody to a 1 year, somebody to a 2 year, somebody to a 3 year, somebody to a 4 year, somebody to a 5 year. And then it's a 5-year appointment as those terms come up every time after that. There's very limited ability to take somebody off of a board. Obviously, if they need to be within the jurisdiction of Blair County, they would move to Florida, then they're going to have to come off the board. But just because you don't like a decision, there's not an ability to say, well, we're going to recall so-and-so or whatever. So it does become very important when you make appointments that you put the people on there that you believe they may not have the identical vision you have, because you may have a kind of a limited vision anyway. You just want somebody that's going to carry this out, but doesn't have something that's really the antithesis of what you're trying to accomplish, obviously. You can have more than 5. I believe the convention center is 9. Then all that means is that there's some years where there's 2 people that get appointed instead of just 1 person. You'd want to keep it odd number for obvious reasons to avoid ties. You can build within your appointments, because you're a county authority. You could build in that some requirements for those appointments. So again, just to use examples, not advocating one way or the other, but you could take the county and break it up into, and let's say since we're talking about 5 regions of the county, north, south, east, west, and central, and say whoever we appoint is going to come from those areas, so that we have equal representation across the county. It may not be geographic within the county. It could be we want certain skill sets of people, and so we want somebody who has a real estate background, and we want somebody that has a financial background. And so you'd have the ability to kind of define those seats, that then future boards of commissioners would be saying, okay, this year our real estate person's up and they don't want to come back, so we just don't go get whoever we can get. We got to get somebody with a real estate background to fill that seat. None of those are requirements. You can just simply say there's 5 seats, appoint your first 5 people to the sequence I gave, and then just after that, people just need to be cognizant of who they reappoint or appoint as terms come up. But that is something that you can do. Just to kind of play off some of the comments that I heard, I would agree that once appointed, they're their own entity. They make their decisions. They would acquire property. They would do their thing. Obviously, they could always come to the county and make a request for any funding and or a guarantee of any kind of a loan. But that Board of Commissioners would have to decide whether they wanted to do that or not. They would not be obligated in any way to do those things. It would be a decision of that board. Now, as a for instance, if they came and asked for guarantee of a loan, once guaranteed, then until that loan's repaid back, the commissioners have bound the county to make sure that loan is paid in the event that it's not paid by that authority. But once that's paid back, then there's no obligation to redo that or do something different. When you talk about support financially, what you're talking about is a little bit unique in that it probably does not have a ability to, well, I shouldn't say probably. I'm not aware of an ability to generate at least sufficient money for operational purposes. So obviously we have water and sewer authorities in Blair County. To my knowledge, municipalities are not doing anything to financially support them. They may allow them to use their building, but in all the instances I'm aware of, those authorities are paying for their space in some way. They may share personnel, but in every example I'm aware of, the authority is paying for that. And the way that they are doing that is they charge their customer rates for water and sewer, which covers whether it's the treatment, the maintenance of the lines, or for their personnel. So they have a way to generate money. Convention center. Again, while there is some financial support from hotel tax that Commissioner Burke referenced, they obviously lease the premises to people for use. They charge for food. There's markup on that, and are mostly self-sustaining. I think their budget's $2 million. I'm not sure how much hotel tax they get. But whatever, for the most part, they're self-sustaining based on their rentals. While again, the airport may come for money for capital projects and things of that nature, they have hangar space, they have other leasing. Again, for the most part, self-sustaining. I'm not sure how the trail would generate funds to even have one person who's going to be your oversight, whether it's to get input as to where to build next, to get grants, those kinds of things. And so that's something that I think this board would need to consider as to what its financial willingness is, because I think there's the potential that you're going to need to fund a person in some way so that there's an employee who is doing the work that's applying for the grants, administering the grants once obtained, overseeing construction of any trails or whatever else is entailed. you know, and one employee may be amenable, but I'm just trying to be a minimalist at this point. I'm not sure how that gets paid for, because you can form the entity, you can have volunteers, but, and even if they apply for the grant as a group of volunteers, like administration of a grant is not easy. It's not rocket science most of the time, but it's not easy. And so, and if the idea is to have a central oversight of trails, those volunteers, they might meet monthly, or, you know, maybe in a even more frequent world, maybe twice a month. You're not probably going to get volunteers. You're going to show up for weekly meetings that are going to literally be the administrators of the system. So all I would say to you, as you consider your policy decisions on that, I don't know how it functions without a person, at least one person, and how they get paid for to do that is something you just need to think about, because you probably need an employee who's paid, who it's their full-time job to do all the things that that entity does, because every authority I know of has somebody that is in that role, even if it's one person, because there are day-to-day issues that come up whenever you're doing anything, and so who makes those calls on the day-to-day issues. So I mean, I think based on the things I heard and the questions that was asked, I think I've exhausted the things that I would say now. I'm happy to answer other questions, but I think I addressed everything up to this point.
Questions? Questions?
How creative can we get? I mean, I'm sure that there are regulations and statutes that set limits on what an authority can do, what we can do. And I just, wonder if, combining with, and that's not the right word either, but if there are other organizations along the way that we're attaching ourselves to and acquiring property from, or whatever this authority or entity would do, are we limited? And I mean, obviously, we can't do something illegal like, have somebody stationed there with a gun that says, "Give me $5 or you can't go on the trail." But I mean, can we be creative in terms of charging I don't know if trails, they don't charge a fee, do they? None of them. I don't know. I mean, ours don't locally, but one of the guys last week mentioned something about getting licensing. I guess it would be like motorcycles or four-wheelers or something like that. Is that something that could be considered to be income for the authority, that the authority would be required to use that for staff person and the maintenance? Or, are there any restrictions on that, or the amounts we could charge? Or, not that I want to bankrupt people, I'm just, trying to find out.
So yes, the authority absolutely would have the ability to set fees for things and then utilize that as income. The issue always is, when you're dealing with something more open, is oversight.
Yeah.
So again, I don't have any idea of what some of the thoughts have been, but if you had a park that was for ATVs and motorcycles, you're probably not going to go to the expense to erect a fence around that. So if somebody goes out there and uses it without having a permit, like, you've got to have that may involve paying somebody to be there during daylight hours to make sure that, so there's an offset. Like, yeah, we get money, but anybody can drive up and get on it because it's not a building. Like, you can control a building, we can put a lock on the door and not give you a key, but outside is much harder to do. And so if there's a way to monetize it, then my answer is yes, you can monetize it as an authority. This might be harder to come up with ways to monetize it, but you're not looking for the legal answer. You're just, in terms of how to do that, you're asking if you can, and the answer is yes. It would be up to that entity or whoever to figure out, well, what is there to monetize? What services or things can be there that don't cost more, that still allow us to have, monetization of use? Is that restrooms with quarter things that you got to put in to get into the restroom along the trails? I don't know how much money that generates, but again, yes, you could do that if that would be something that would make sense and it would be profitable. So they're going to have a lot of flexibility in terms of the legalities of things. It's the nature of what it is that is more difficult because of being open space.
And the state has, the rangers and people like that at the parks, but they're probably not likely to hire people to be stationed on the trails. That's not even a question for us, really, what they would decide to do.
What about if an authority was created, what about, when you talk about funding, would they be able, local businesses, to contribute to that, to be a funding source for that entity?
So as a governmental entity, the reality is that people beyond taxes can give money to Blair County. I don't think you'd probably get a lot of people signing up, although, to be fair, what was the thing up at the fort? Something, is it Armory or?
Magazine, the Powder Magazine.
Powder Magazine. I started to say powdered and I couldn't finish it. We did have somebody who made that as a donation to the county. And so, absolutely, they can do that. They can get a tax deduction, I believe. Consult your tax preparer. Don't rely on my advice. But I believe that there wouldn't be any different in terms of, a government. It's deductible for a government. I believe it would be the same for that authority as a gift. And so if businesses wanted to do that, to help it, they absolutely could do that. There can also be partnerships. Again, not promoting or doing anything, but you've got Rails to Trails that has their line from Alexandria, up to Canoe Creek. There would be the ability for that authority, if there was some mutual thing that they could work out, to enter a contract and have a partnership of some kind. I don't know what that would be or what it would look like, but there was nothing that would prohibit that either, as it would with any other group or entity. So.
Well, I appreciate your input. I think the board does. I don't think any of us came here with all the answers to everything. There's a good discussion. There's good challenges. I just think that we need to seriously consider this. There's businesses out here that are going to prosper because of it. At the last meeting, I don't think it was at the last meeting, a meeting I was at, there was a microbrew restaurant who had built a microbrew along the Rails to Trails, and it was so successful that they're looking to put their second one in, and top of their list is where's the trails at. They're going to build another one next to the trail. So I think it's a discussion that needs to be had with the public, with business people. They would profit from this. People give to ABCD Corp. People give to the Chamber. People give to Explore Altoona. this is just an entity to consider doing that. I think the other commissioners and I would agree on, I don't want this to be solely a county asset that we fully fund and we have to do everything. I don't want that to happen because I don't, again, we have enough on our plate to fund and we have enough people asking for things, but I think in my opinion, I think it's been very clear over the last 2 weeks that people are looking to the county for leadership and to create something that pulls everything together. Again, there's a lot of places out there like Antis Township and like the Altoona Water Authority and the National Parks bringing in the 9/11 Trail, who are putting a lot of money into this area, and I would hate to see it fail because right now the discussion is that there's no one bringing all of this together. So if we miss it, then it falls on us. We missed it. So I hope that we would continue to look at some of the things that you brought up. I think they're very good points of discussion. I think there's the things that we as a Board of Commissioners need to try to get some answers to, some clarity to before moving forward on this. But again, I for one appreciate the discussion and I appreciate the input that we've gotten from the community. And I think we need to continue down this road to try to make this happen if we can. So, any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Okay, no other comments or questions. We'll adjourn. The next commissioners meeting will be held Tuesday, February 27th at 1 p.m. Thank you all for coming.